Do you ever have that moment where you realize that you have spent a lot of time just kind of spinning your wheels and your brain is in that place where you just can't quite shut it off? That's where I feel like I am right now. When it comes to thinking about our energy costs, our food costs, as we're heading into the fall and winter time. And it's something that I've been continually thinking of, and just being mindful of what I am doing myself and thinking about what other people can be doing as well to try and save money when we are in this season of continued rising costs. So today I want to share with you 8 money saving tips that I am either currently implementing or am working to implement as we move into the fall and winter time. Just in the last week, gas has gone up over $1.20 at a local station. I drive by it every day and I've seen the price going up on nearly a daily basis. And I was anticipating the price to go back up, but I don't think I was anticipating it to go up this quickly. I've been reading some reports in the news about how there are some variables when it comes to the amount of oil that is going to be produced. Regardless of your thoughts on where the oil we use should come from, the bottom line for us right now is that anytime there is a reduction in production, it's going to cost us more in terms of our gas at the pump. We are already seeing an increase in cost as far as our gas goes, and that is not even a reflection of the potential changes in production that we might see. So what we're seeing now could just be the start of the rise of gas prices. I've also read a few articles on some of our local electric and natural gas providers proposing increases that are quite significant as we are moving into January of next year. I know that these local providers are not the only ones who are increasing the price. We're seeing that nationwide as well as in other countries around the world. The rising cost of energy couldn't come at a worse time when we're heading into fall and winter. That means we have shorter days, which require more electricity for providing light, and it also means cooler temperatures, which will impact the amount of energy we need to heat our homes. And so we're going to be seeing a continued increase in cost when it comes to our energy to take care of our homes. In addition to that, of course, like we have talked about many times, we have inflation and different shortages that can cause an inflation in price for many of the items that we need for our pantry. The garden had been doing really well, and so I hadn't been to the grocery store for a while, but I wanted to take a look at kind of how things were doing and some of the prices that I was seeing, and it just continues to go up. You do not have to purchase many items for your bill to be extremely expensive. And as I'm looking at this, there is only a finite amount of income coming in, and the outflow continues to increase. So in order to try and balance a budget and to try and save any money or hedge against some of these rising costs, something has to be done. What are some practical ways that we could make that happen? I'm sharing with you 8 of my ideas, but I am really hoping that you will share some of your ideas down in the comments below, either things that you have started to do or things that you are thinking you might try moving forward to try and save some money and hedge against some of these increased expenditures that we are noticing. So I've broken these tips up into 2 categories. One is to reduce our energy costs, and then one is to reduce food costs. We'll start with reducing energy costs. The first idea is to reduce the number of trips that you make. Right now, I am doing very little outside of going to work and coming back. However, if I do need to make a weekend run, I'm thinking about what kinds of stops can I make along the way. I don't want to drive 20 or 30 miles for one thing or to make one stop, because that's not a good use of my fuel. So if I am going to go out and make an extra trip to do something, I want to try and combine errands together. If you can do 3 or 4 or more items in one trip, it really reduces the amount of gas that it's going to take because you're combining everything into one. Even better, if you have the ability to do some of those errands either before or after work, it reduces the number of times that you have to go to town, thereby saving gas. The second energy reducing idea is to turn off the lights. I know this might sound really simple, but I'm guessing if you take a look at some of your habits, there are probably times when you are leaving the light on in a room that you are not in, and that's just one way that you're increasing your electricity bill. If you have young children, this can be something that is challenging for them to learn how to turn off the lights when they leave a room. But if you can try and get in the habit of doing that, it could definitely save you on your electricity bill. The other thing that could potentially help would be if you have a solar generator that you have maybe been saving for emergency uses. Perhaps you might have an area in your home where you could plug in the light that you use for that room, and you could go ahead and use that solar generator on more of a regular basis, which could also save on your electricity bill. So if you were looking to purchase a generator and you didn't already have one, this might not really be a saving tip for you. But if you have one that you've maybe purchased for an emergency situation, it might be possible to go ahead and utilize that generator now as you are going into the winter season, because it can save on your electricity bill. The third way to reduce your energy costs would be to turn down the heat. This tip is applicable if you have electricity or natural gas fueling your heat. I tended to run my house on kind of more of the cool side of things when I had natural gas for my heat source. I put it on a timer, so it kind of maintained things pretty well. During the hours that I anticipated being home, I had it set at 65, and then during the time that I was away, I would have it drop to 62. That was really helpful when I lived in town and was using natural gas to fuel my heat. So that might be an option for you. If you choose to run your house a little bit cooler, you may want to invest in layering items. So having flannel shirts on hand, or a sweatshirt, sweater, maybe having a couple of extra blankets can just be helpful when you're in the zone and keeping things a little cooler around the house. Now with wood heat, that's gonna be a little bit different. You're not controlling a thermostat there, but there are things that you can do to try and monitor or control how much wood you're using as well. Especially if you're purchasing wood, that is still an energy cost that you're going to have to pay. And I know that the price of wood has definitely gone up, just like everything else has this year. And so if you can kind of monitor how much wood are you feeding the fire. I think sometimes with wood heat, it can be a little more free flowing. It's easier to just throw another log on the fire and heat the house up a little bit more. And it is nice to have that warmth and coziness. However, if we try to learn how to regulate that just a little bit, we might be able to use a little less wood, which can again save on some of our energy costs. The fourth idea for reducing energy costs is to put some type of window covering onto your windows. Last year, this was something that I really worked on. I made some curtains that were lined so that I could go ahead and put those on my windows to retain heat. And actually it worked really well, kind of for dual purpose. It helped me to retain some of the heat in the wintertime, particularly at night. It is amazing, even if your house is well insulated and you have windows that are good quality, you still can lose heat through the window. And so it helped to retain some of the heat in the house. And then in the summertime, it helped to block out some of that heat, so it helped to keep the house a bit cooler during the summer. I'd love to know in the comments, what are some things that you are doing to try and reduce some of your energy costs? I anticipate this is an area we're going to continue to see some very steep increases in, and it can be something that's quite challenging to try and reduce, as it's necessary to get to and from work, it's necessary to stay warm, it's necessary to cook. A lot of things are necessities when it comes to this area. So what are some of your ideas for reducing costs? I promised you 8 tips, but I am going to give you a bonus tip at the end of this category that I think could be quite helpful. So don't forget to stay till the end. The first tip when it comes to reducing food cost would be, of course, to grow your own food. And hopefully that's something that you have already begun to work on. Having a garden or doing some container gardening, any type of gardening that you can do right now will definitely help to offset some of your costs. Not only can you have food available to eat fresh, but hopefully you're in a position where you can have some extra food that you're able to can or freeze, dehydrate, put away for the future. And gardening can be very beneficial when it comes to reducing food costs. If this is not something that you have already looked into doing, I do have quite a few videos on our channel that talk about getting started with a garden or some different gardening ideas. And this is something that you might want to spend some time looking into and preparing for this winter so that you can go ahead and start a garden in the spring. Hopefully you have something established, but if you don't, it's not too late. And now would be a great time to go ahead and start looking at what you might need to do to begin a garden in the spring. This is going to be an essential way to reduce some of those food costs. The second idea in this area would be to look for local people who may have excess that would be willing to barter for something else. It could be an exchange of time, it could be an exchange of something else that you have abundance of, but there are many people who are doing a lot of gardening or who might have an extensive orchard or something where they might have some extra fruit or vegetables that they're not able to use. And this is a great way to try and fill in some of the gaps that you might have when it comes to your own garden, or that might help you to fill in the gaps in your pantry if you aren't able to garden with the quantity needed to go ahead and do canning. The third idea here is to source your meat from a local farmer. This is something that we've been doing for the last couple of years, and it definitely is a money-saving area. You're able to, 1, support local farmers, and 2, you get to know the quality of your meat, and it is less expensive overall, at least in our area, than if you were to purchase that meat at the store. It also is nice to go ahead and have that on hand. If you have something in the freezer that you can just pull out for dinner or for breakfast, whatever the case might be, it's going to save you in multiple ways. The fourth thing is to add regularly to your pantry. This is something we have talked about extensively. Last year I participated in the Pantry Challenge, and I am planning to do that this year coming up. And it was a great time to really dive into what I had in the pantry, look for things that I needed to stock up on, and was just really enlightening when it came to trying to use out of the pantry only. If you have not already started a pantry, you need to get a pantry started. And when I'm talking about starting a pantry, I mean have staples on hand, have some canned items on hand. Those types of food items are going to really help you moving forward into the future. Sales are few and far between these days, but if you have something in the pantry, then it can help to tide you over until you find something on sale, when you can go ahead and stock up on a little bit of that item and put some away in your extended pantry. So the more you can add to your pantry now, the less it's going to cost you later. And in addition to that, it's just good practice as we're moving into fall and winter. It's good practice to have something in your pantry as we are coming into that time of year where you might have a snowstorm or a windstorm or something that would cause you to not be able to just run to the store and pick up what you need. You need to have things on hand. As promised, we are to my bonus tip, and the bonus tip today is to learn to cook from scratch. This might be something that you're already doing, and I'm sure it is serving you well if you are already doing this. But I know a lot of people my age tend to eat out regularly or have previously been in the habit of eating out regularly. They also consume a lot of pre-packaged foods or processed foods, and they don't necessarily know how to cook. Now, that's not all of my friends, and that's not every person my age, but there are a fair number of people that I know who tend to gravitate towards fast food or prepackaged meals. You can reduce your food costs greatly by going ahead and learning to cook from scratch. And when we're talking about cooking from scratch, I don't just mean elaborate dishes that require exotic ingredients. I am guilty of having found beautiful recipes online where some of the ingredients were unusual and they were things that I only used once. I am trying very hard to move away from those types of recipes and to try and return to the basics, making sure that I am focusing in mainly on staples. Staples are nice for long-term storage. They're great items to have in your pantry, and they're usually less expensive than some of your other items. When cooking with staple ingredients, I do find that utilizing herbs is a great way to just change up the flavor a bit. And so if I were to invest in something when it comes to staple cooking, I would definitely look at investing in different types of herbs, and I would focus my efforts there as I was trying to change different cooking styles. So a couple of cookbooks that I would highly recommend if you're looking at trying to learn to cook from the basics. This one I have referenced multiple times when it comes to canning, but this is the More with Less cookbook, and it just has a lot of recipes using staple ingredients. There are recipes in here for canning, and I have shared some of those with you on this channel, but there are also a lot of just great recipes for everyday meals as well. And the second cookbook that is also very helpful, this is the Simply in Season cookbook, put together by the same people who put together More with Less. And this one is a little bit different because it focuses mainly on recipes that utilize your fruits and vegetables that are in season. The cookbook is broken down into the different seasons. So you have your spring, summer, fall, and winter, and dishes that revolve around vegetables or fruit that you might have available during those seasons. And then of course, some recipes that are for all seasons, but it's just another outlet to help you with that. Now, you might be saying, well, how is purchasing a cookbook helping me to save? But it's an investment in something that will help you to save long term. If cooking is something that you have maybe been challenged with, or if you just want some fresh ideas for utilizing some of those staples, I would recommend taking a peek and seeing if this might be a helpful tool for you. I will link to both of these cookbooks down in the description below, and I hope that they could be a help for you moving forward on your cooking journey. Let me know in the comments, what are some things that you are doing to try and reduce some of your food costs? These are two areas that are continuing to rise a lot, and I think one of the best things we can do to help each other is to share ideas. That's part of what I want our community to be here at Blooming Wildwood Homestead. So feel free to bring on those comments. Let's share with each other some of our ideas, and I hope that these can definitely help us to reduce some of our energy and food costs as we are moving into a potentially challenging fall and winter. I have full confidence that we will have some great ideas that can help you moving forward. Until next time, bye everyone.